Spotlight. It's Jeannie and Kathleen back with some really great segments, but from the national stage on down. We're going to start out by talking about Biden's lies. Not only are they a problem for him as the Americans wake up to that he has been lying about all sorts of policy decisions, they've actually cost U.S. service members their lives. We'll discuss that. We're going to get into some other interesting things like masking kids. Did you know the United States has the strictest policy on that? What's more is there anything civil in public discourse these days? From, your college campuses to the Twitter universe to your local school boards, it is a disaster in terms of people being respectful with each other. We've got a local school board example that I think is going to alarm you, and it should. So going right back up to the top, though, let's talk about Biden's lies. I mean, It's pretty remarkable, Kathleen. And I tell you what, the USA Today put this out. It's what happened to Honest Joe. President Joe Biden's promises are turning into lies. They say President Joe Biden started a tweet Sunday with, "I give you my word as a Biden."
Are you kidding?
What, like Hunter?
Yeah.
I mean, this is ridiculous. He said he was making a lofty promise about his signature legislation that no one making less than $400,000 a year would see a tax increase. The author of this particular article in USA Today, Scott Jennings, says, "I laughed out loud at Biden's tweet because A, to what other name would he attach his word? And B, Biden's word has never been worth less." Meaning worth less than what it is right now, because there's been one lie after another. I mean, this is exactly what was pointed out in an American Spectator article too. Habitual liar Joe Biden confronts the winds of truth. I mean, it was just a further perspective. And in the opening paragraph on this one, they say, in the way that the last president was enamored by hyperbole and name calling, meaning Trump, of course, the current president is enamored of outright lies. And they give this litany. The $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill won't cost anything. That's ridiculous.
Of course it is.
The generals all agreed with his assessment of Afghanistan. No, they didn't, apparently, we're finding out. No American will be left behind. There's literally thousands still at the mercy of the Taliban behind enemy lines. The exit from Afghanistan was a great triumph. Another lie. As well as many false assertions that he's made about his own life that cross into the bizarre.
Yeah.
And, the author points out lying by American politicians is not something new. I mean, this, I think, goes back to really the Vietnam era where it was really full force in the body count lie. And so you had things like that happen. Even General Norman Schwarzkopf, who is now dead at this point in time, he said in an interview that the body count system used by the military in the Vietnam War was a lie, and added, "I was forced to participate in that lie." So the lies among politicians, generals, people in charge are enormous, and they have enormous impact. And I mean, how Biden gets away from this. Do you remember George H.W. Bush? Do you remember what was his big lie? Do you remember that? No new taxes.
Okay.
No new taxes, right?
Yes.
And he got pummeled by actually raising taxes. He actually paid a price for his lies. Do we think Joe Biden will pay a price for his lies?
No, not anymore. I don't think. I think that the political lines are so hardened that this is it's the tribalism that you will not see, the plank in your own eye while you're pointing out the speck in your opponent's eye. I mean, it's just, we are so divided and tribal. I don't think that his own party is going to hold him accountable for lying. Well, the progressives are on the, but that's a different situation. They don't care that he's lying. They care that they're not getting everything they want. So
that's right.
So his party's not going to hold him accountable for the lying. They're going to hold him accountable for not giving
Will the
them
American
everything.
people hold him accountable for his lies?
So I think it does have an impact. I have a very good friend who you also know who was a Democrat. She's also a nurse. And when the Obamacare package was going through, she said, "That's not true. and that's not true. Just from her own experience, and her husband's a doctor. That's not true, and that's not true, and that's not true. But she had been a Democrat so long, she did not want to be a Republican. It's like when like a husband or somebody is lying, but you don't want to believe it. Like it was like that personal to her. These were such deeply held beliefs that she had that it's very difficult for people to make like a switch. She didn't want to be a Republican. I think even now, I think she's libertarian and not a Republican.
Right.
But I think it does have an impact. And I was reading in Psychology Today, they did a study on, it's called the Leadership Member Exchange model, which it proposed that as the quality of relationships between members and leaders work in two directions, and the more members feel connected to their leaders, the better the system works. And the members feel better about their leaders when they see them as ethical, honest, good at interpreting. And you see so personal relationships consistent and fair. And so there is so much mistrust. And people don't know, they're like, it's Trump's fault. It's with COVID's Trump's fault. Afghanistan's Trump's fault. And then on the other side, it's Fauci and Biden and so there's so much institutional mistrust. I think we're divided against each other as a result of all this dishonesty at the top. And then, you have like smaller things like this week, Tammy Duckworth made news. We were talking about this earlier.
That's right.
Because she avoids paying property tax on her primary residence in Cook County. She has a home value there. We were talking about this at $252,000 by the Cook County assessor.
Which in Hoffman Estates, I'm still sorry, that's not like a really fancy house or anything. It's a very typical, modest house.
3-bedroom. She, because of an Illinois tax break that goes to veterans, she is at least 70% disabled. So she does get a tax break that not everybody gets. But she and her husband own another home. Yeah,
$1.3 million in Virginia.
Right.
I mean, she's okay. So
that's another dishonest, kind of unethical.
It is dishonest, unethical. I mean, she's taken advantage of a property tax break, which, by the way, I was the only member when that came up in the Illinois, and actually the General Assembly.
Veterans property tax break.
Yes, I was the only person to say no. I was the only person to say no. Why? Because it's not means tested.
Right.
Because it wasn't for a modest home. It was for up to a $750,000 home. And because our taxes are the second highest in the nation. But I mean, these people, they lied about all that stuff.
Sean Casten had his own property tax problem.
Yep.
In not paying taxes on his
condo. Right. Yep. At first, he claimed it as his actual home.
And J.B. Pritzker pulling the toilets out of his second mansion next to his first mansion on one of the most exclusive streets in Chicago to avoid paying property taxes that he wants everybody else to pay. Things are fabulous to pay. They all think it's fabulous to pay taxes.
Except when it comes to them.
Are able to totally avoid it.
Well, the article in USA Today goes on to say basically that, look, it's a false, it's absolutely false that your massive spending program is not going to hit people below a $400,000 income level. That is patently false, and yet he keeps spreading it. But here's what's interesting. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Here's, he goes, it's been disproven by the nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation, which found taxpayers in every income bracket. Yes, every single one would see a tax increase by 2023. 2023. But this author goes on to say it followed a series of falsehoods told by Biden that makes Biden seem like everything he railed against in the 2020 campaign. And I love it when people go back to the historical references that were made. Yes. So Biden used to say the words of a president matter with a straight face. And he was elected on a promise to be different than Donald Trump. In fact, on November 1st, just days before the election, Biden led Trump by 15 points on the question of which candidate is honest and trustworthy. According to a Fox News report. It worked, he won, and then he continued to profess honesty as he took office. Here's Biden. There is truth and there are lies, Biden said in his inaugural address, each of us has a duty and responsibility as citizens, as Americans, and especially as leaders. Leaders who have pledged to honor our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and to defeat the lies. Protect our Constitution. You've got a wide open border. You've got eviction moratoriums that are unconstitutional. You have vaccine mandates pushed through OSHA that are blatantly unconstitutional. There's nothing honest about him. Nothing.
Well, and that's interesting. I mean, you're bringing up all these policies.
Yeah, they're policies.
That they
policies
lie to get through. They do
Yes.
that all the time in Illinois. They lie to get through policies. They say they're doing pension reform. They're not doing pension reform. They say they're,
doing a property tax reform.
We're
They're
going
not
to
doing reform.
we're going to save your pension. Huge, huge, huge lie. So dangerous. A lot of people are at risk right now. But that is an interesting. 7 of the 10 states in the worst financial condition are run by Democrats. A new report published by Truth in Accounting found that the majority of states, we've cited this report before, highest taxpayer burden under state government was under unified Democrat control. Governor and both houses of the state legislature were Democratic, while the other 3 had divided control. But none of the 10 states in the worst financial straits were Republican controlled. And I think that's because it's not that Republicans never lie, because of course that's just not true. They do. But
they do
it's
too.
not
But
it's not a
win
win at all costs mentality, which I think you have on the Democrat side. It's whatever I have to say, because they believe, and we saw it play out in Glen Ellen, and we saw it play out in other places. They believe Republicans are so evil and bad, and they're just so out of their minds over the idea that they might have some power and have some say in public policy.
Well, the other biggest lie that's now getting revealed by the Democrats really is this whole lie about the Russian collusion. I mean, it's coming full force with the Sussman indictment that is proving out that it was really the Clinton campaign that colluded with Russia against Trump. And it was a whole lie the entire time. Everybody knew it. Eric Trump, the executive vice president of the Trump Organization, in an interview with Maria Bartiromo, says, I remember the story like it was yesterday. I got an email from the New York Times. This was September 28 of 2016, saying that we had servers connected. Trump Organization had servers connected. Oops, sorry. To a Russian bank that was funded by Putin. I go, no, we don't, guys. They said, yes, you do. We have got a tip. It's very, very credible. And I didn't know until literally Durham indicted Michael Sussman 2 days ago that this whole thing was actually done by the Clinton campaign. They are liars.
Yeah.
Liars. It's all coming out now. But, one last point about this, honestly, it actually has cost lives.
Well, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so here is Ken Culver writing in the Wall Street Journal, abandoning Bagram may have cost 13 U.S. lives. Congress learned more last week about the decision surrounding the Biden administration's disgraceful withdrawal from Afghanistan. One fact that is becoming clear, the decision to abandon Bagram airfield is directly connected to the deaths of 13 U.S. service members, one of whom Marine Lance Corporal Kareem Nakui was my constituent. And it says President Biden ordered all U.S. troops to leave after 20 years in the country, forcing military commanders to abandon Bagram. But what is happening? In a previous, editorial, they lay out exactly what the generals are saying. We were never given the ability to make this decision until late in the game, not until August 25th, where we contacted that he wanted to do this. And we actually all advised that he keep at least 2,500 U.S. troops in Afghanistan. And of course, Biden is saying, no, they didn't. No, they didn't.
So disastrous.
The generals undercut Mr. Biden's spin about their advice as the chaotic withdrawal was underway. Biden said the generals unanimously support his August 31st deadline for departure of U.S. troops. But as General Milley confirmed in questioning by Senator Tom Cotton, that advice was given on August 25th, 10 days after the fall of Kabul to the Taliban. So, I mean, these lies are costing lives. I mean,
you just can't keep the truth buried forever. I mean, they have built a huge
dossier of lies.
Yeah, and they've built a lot of protections around themselves. But at some point, I mean, you can't kill off enough people. It's just the truth is going to come to light, especially when it's this magnitude. You're talking about world geopolitical relationships and events, and there's just no way. And that, So this,
no, I mean, and it's interesting because we haven't even talked about the COVID lies.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, and the mask lies and the
Which
numbers
I think we
and
are
everything.
getting to
But
in
we are going
another
to get that.
segment,
Actually, that is our next segment
That will
coming
be our
up.
next
So we will revisit this entire topic and we'll look at why are still U.S. children masks and the rest of the world has gotten over it. Okay, thanks.